You're ready to begin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kimberly Johnson. I have the pleasure of being the Director of Admissions for TEAK Fellowship. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We know that you could have been doing anything else, but you chose to be here today to find out more about our wonderful program and how it can help your child. So we can go to the next slide. So I, again, am Kimberly Johnson, the Director of Admissions here at TEAK. And with me, I have Erin Rodriguez, who is the Associate Director of Admissions. And then we also have Naya Ramtahal, who is our admissions counselor. And she also is one of our former TEAK fellows. And you'll be finding out a little bit more about her on a future slide. So again, this is the admissions team. If you have any questions during the admissions process, we are the three that you should reach out to, and we will be more than happy to assist you through the process. So before we get started, we again are asking for all of the parents to make sure that your child's first and last name is typed into the chat for attendance purposes. Full attendance at this info session with the guardian as well as the student is required as part of the admissions process. Additionally, we are asking that everyone mute their cameras. Obviously, cameras are optional, but we strongly encourage you to do so because we would love to see you and start to get to know you as part of the admissions process. In addition to that, please send a message in the chat if you're unable to hear us at any point. And also know that there will be a question and answer period at the end of today's presentation. So what is TEAK Fellowship? So TEAK Fellowship is a free 10-year enrichment and educational program here in New York City. The students that it services are students who live in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. Again, the program is free, and we will be telling you more about all the wonderful things that it has to offer over the course of the entire presentation. So what is our mission? So TEAK Fellowship believes that motivation and potential, not economic circumstance, should determine a child's future. Additionally, we make sure that we unlock access to outstanding educational and transformative experiences for exceptional New York City students who can use those opportunities not only to change their lives, but also to change the world. The students who are part of TEAK are always high-performing students. They typically have a 90 grade point average or higher, and we will tell you more about some of the other requirements as we continue with the presentation. Additionally, the core values of TEAK Fellowship are scholarship, leadership, citizenship, and fellowship. And through all the things that we do through TEAK, all of the students end up getting those 4 ships during their 10 years of being part of TEAK Fellowship. So what is the TEAK way? So TEAK, just so you're aware, it is a program that is in addition to the classes and the school that your child is currently in. So your child would be a part of their school and they would remain as a student, specifically a 6th grader in their school. But in addition to that, they would also do TEAK. So TEAK has highly individualized student support. We have class sizes that are between 12 to 16. That gives us the opportunity to really work very much one-on-one with the students in that small classroom setting. In addition to that, we have Dean's Advisory System. So every student that's a part of TEAK will be assigned a dean that will work with them and help them along the entire time that they are in TEAK. And additionally, we have a mentoring program. And if you think of our mentoring program, think of it as a way that your child can become familiar with a specific field by working with an adult who actually is in that field. So that adult would actually mentor them and let them know more about it. So for instance, if your child wanted to be a graphic designer, if your child wanted to be a doctor, we would make sure that they were assigned to somebody who was part of either one of those fields so that they could see what the experience is and ask that person any questions that they would like to. Additionally, we have a rigorous and relevant curriculum. Specifically, we make sure that we focus on STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We also want to make sure that your child knows about multiple cultures and not just their own. So we also do multicultural history, not only through the classes that we have, but also through the different activities that we have as well. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that we're doing leadership and public speaking because during this process of being with TEAK, we want to open up your child to being able to do interviews for independent day schools, boarding schools, etc. So that's why it's very important that they learn how to do leadership as well as public speaking. So if your child is admitted to TEAK fellowship, there are two requirements that they must do while they are part of the program. First and foremost, they must be a part of the middle school academy. The middle school academy will start in the summer after sixth grade, after seventh grade, and after eighth grade. So specifically for the Summer Institute, that is required. It takes place in Manhattan at the Browning School. The Browning School is located at 62nd Street and Park Avenue. And again, all students are required to take part in Summer Institute. This is something that is mandatory. It takes place for 6 weeks for those 3 summers. And again, it's the summer after sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. We will tell you more about exactly when it takes place in the summer on the next slide. Additionally, all students must do what is called our High School Foundations. High School Foundations program takes place in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens, and it takes place at 3 different after-school sites. So specifically, if students are in the Bronx, they would be assigned to the Bronx location, which is at Fordham Preparatory Academy on the campus of Fordham University. Then we have the Brooklyn location, which is located at St. Anne's School, which is in the Brooklyn Heights section of Brooklyn. And then in the Queens section the student would be going to Q Forest School, which is in the Forest Hill sections of Queens. So High School Foundations takes place all year round. Summer Institute only takes place during the summers that are listed there. So if your child is doing High School Foundations, they would be required during the school year to be in the after school program on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. And that would be when they were in 7th and 8th grade. We do provide a Metro card for students so that they would be able to use it to go to the High School Foundations program. Then we wanted to share with you a little bit more about the Summer Institute. Again, as I shared with you, it is for rising 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. It is a 6-week enrichment and academic program. And again, it takes place in the summer, specifically in early July through the middle of August. Historically, early July is usually a few days after the 4th of July, and mid-August usually ends in the teens of August. So we always tell families that if there is a specific vacation or something that you do as a family, so please make sure that you are blocking off that time in the last 2 weeks of August, because again, if your child is admitted to TEAK, Summer Institute is a requirement for them. The program itself takes place Monday through Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And as it is listed there, we also want to make sure that there's some enrichment involved. So we also on Fridays have our excursions and our trips, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that on another slide. And again, it's in a private school atmosphere. So it is specifically at the Browning School at 62nd Street and Park Avenue. And additionally, we do provide a Metro card for your child to get to Summer Institute as well. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the classes for Summer Institute. And I know that when Naya speaks, she'll be able to tell you a little bit more about her experience as well as being part of Summer Institute. So these are some of the classes that we actually teach. So again, this is just a sample of small part of the classes that we teach. So we want to make sure that not only is your child learning study skills, but they also are getting test prep for math and for English. They have reading foundations. We also blend the arts in there as well. There's coding. So we want to make sure that it is a good blend for your child. We know that it is a great sacrifice for them to be doing this in the summertime, but we want to make sure that they are getting as much as they need academically as well as socially within their cohort, which are the other students that would come into TEAK with them. So again, this is just a sample of some of those Summer Institute classes. So let's talk a little bit more about the recreational activities. So as I shared with you, of course, we have Summer Institute, and then we also have what's called CATS. We'll come back to CATS in a second, but for Summer Institute, those Fridays when we're trying to make sure that we have fun times and good excursions with the students, we go to a number of different places. So we've gone to Brooklyn Bridge, we've gone to roller rinks, we've gone to Shakespeare on the Park. We've done a number of things during Summer Institute. And the picture on the bottom of the page is actually during the summer field day, which took place at the president of our board of directors home. His name is Mark Becker, and this was a tug of war game with some of our students. So we try to make sure that we take them out of the city as well so that we can show them a little bit more about New York and other experiences and not just experiences here within the 5 boroughs. So at this event, we actually had tug of war, there's food trucks, there's different kind of activities for the students so that they can then have a little bit of fun, get to know each other a little bit more, and do some more with their students that are in the same cohort with them. Then we have CATS, which was recently revamped. CATS stands for Culture at TEAK on Saturdays, and this takes place all year round. So we have a number of different things that we've taken students to. We do bowling, sports games. We most recently had a couple of students go to a Knicks game with one of the members of our board of directors. In terms of Broadway shows, we've taken students this year alone to see Hadestown, to see Aladdin. We've also taken them to see the ballet. So there's a number of things that we have done with them. And in addition to that, we've also taken them to the movies. Most recently, we rented out a theater and we took them to see Wakanda Forever, which was a huge hit for our students. We provided the snacks, the transportation for them to get there. And again, just another way for them to have time together so that it's not all studying, but that they also are getting to know each other and see a little more about what is offered around the city. So now I'm going to turn it over so that the next person can speak about Chloe.
Thank you, Kimberly. So this is Chloe. She is a current 11th grader from class 21 of TEAK. Chloe describes TEAK as a community that accepts you as you are. So we have students from all different backgrounds, all different neighborhoods that ride this program together. And like Kimberly said, we put a really strong emphasis on class bonding because we really want to make sure that everyone in the program feels heard, accepted, and really does feel like they are a part of something bigger. So one of the reasons that she initially applied to TEAK was because she felt like she wasn't being challenged at her current middle school and really wanted to take her skills to the next level. Chloe does feel like she has since been challenged by TEAK, but she also feels like she does get that one-on-one support from her deans, her advisors, her teachers, all within TEAK, to kind of get her to the next level in an enjoyable and supportive way. So like I said, we really do feel like that balance between academics and enjoyment really is crucial to a young person's success. She also said that she discovered a newfound passion for public speaking and theater after her Shakespeare class at Summer Institute. So when we've asked a lot of older students about their TEAK experiences, this is actually something really common that we hear because Malik, who is our Shakespeare instructor at Summer Institute, really does have this way of making everyone feel comfortable and while building their confidence at the same time. So a lot of students really do enjoy that. So TEAK really prides itself on not only helping the students succeed academically, but to really become a well-rounded individual who's prepared for high school, college, and beyond. So like Kimberly said, we offer our mentor program where 7th and 8th graders are matched with a college-educated professional mentor based off their similar interests, their career goals, and more. And they meet monthly, but TEAK also hosts like fun and engaging events like bowling or mini golf for the students and their mentors to bond. So most recently, we went to a museum, to the Smithsonian Museum. And then another day, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we had a board game day at the office. And it's just another fun way for them to get together and bond. And these mentors really do guide them throughout middle school, help them to develop their passions and their goals. And a lot of older students do say that they did keep in touch with their mentors even after middle school and the program ended. And they were able to get internships or other opportunities with their mentors as they got older. Then in later years, students participate in mock interviews with big company executives. And this is really a good way for the students to gain experience with interviews, which are such an important part of getting into college, getting a job, getting internships. They also go on visits to companies such as Google, NFL, the Royal Bank of Canada. And in these companies, they can even get opportunities to get internships or jobs later on. We also have community service opportunities and a lot more for our students. So TEAK has a designated team to assist with all things associated with high school placement. So they'll help the students and the parents to develop a list of schools based off the students' individuality. And they have sessions with the school admissions officers almost weekly, exclusively for TEAK students. So TEAK students can really get to know the different high schools and the different contacts at these schools. They also take the 8th graders on a 2-night boarding school retreat so they can get a good idea of the boarding school atmosphere. Another cool thing that they do is they'll bring in the admissions counselors from some of these really good high schools into the office, and the students can actually have their interviews done here. So that actually happened tonight with a boarding school, and we just had a few students leave after they did their interview. So that they're more comfortable during the interviews at our office. We also take the 8th graders on a 2-night boarding school retreat, and this gives them a really good idea of the boarding school atmosphere. The team will also, of course, assist with all things test prep, interview practice, application help. And most importantly, they'll walk through the financial aid process with you and make sure that you're really getting the most aid possible. So they'll work with every school to make sure that everything is correct on your application, and that the school does understand that this is a TEAK student. And TEAK has a good name with so many of these really good schools across the country. So it's always a plus to have that on your application. And again, TEAK sorry, can we go back? Thank you. And again, TEAK does not pay tuition, but we do help our students to work with their independent or parochial or boarding schools. And our families are leaving debt-free. So we really do have a strong belief that no family should have to take out a loan for their child to attend high school. So we make sure that that does happen. And something else that really sets us apart from other programs is that we really try to work with the parents throughout the entire process, just as much as we work with the students. We understand your apprehensions towards possibly sending your child to a school across the city or even across the country. So we're going to sit with every parent individually and offer them any support that they might need and answer any questions that they might have. So as you can see here, TEAK fellows go on to attend some of the finest high schools in the country. Many fellows decide to take their talents beyond New York City and even attend some boarding schools in New England, Virginia. And we even have a student that just started at a boarding school in California. And although we do encourage our students to apply to independent high schools like those boarding schools, we don't just offer counseling for independent schools. We'll also offer counseling for the specialty schools, the public schools, the day schools. And we have students put at least one of each type of school on their list so that we can make sure that they're really exploring all of their options and really find the best school for them. So this is Brandon. He is an 8th grader from class 24 of TEAK. So when we asked Brandon about his TEAK experience so far, which has only been a little over a year and a half, he mentioned that his favorite part has been taking a coding class during the after-school program for middle schoolers. This is, again, like we said earlier, an experience that Brandon might not have had outside of TEAK. And at TEAK, we really are striving to supplement what students might not receive at their current middle schools. We want to help the students to really develop their passions and their goals. And that's exactly what this coding course did for Brandon. We also asked what advice he would give another student starting the program. He said, be confident, don't be afraid to go into class and get something wrong. You'll have to fail sometimes because that's how you learn how to get it right. So another massive part of our efforts is to boost the confidence of our students, specifically middle schoolers. We want them to learn that it's okay to try and not be good at something at first. It's all part of the learning process of growing into yourself. So when we heard Brandon give this advice, we knew that he had gotten to that point already as an 8th grader. And because he is in 8th grade, he is currently applying to high schools. And he mentioned that it's been really beneficial for him to get weekly presentations, like I mentioned earlier, from the different high schools in New York City and around the country. And because of these presentations, he concluded that he would like to aim for a boarding school. And that's really the object of these admissions presentations. It's to see the type of school a student can see themselves thriving in, and then to meet the contacts within those schools. So another thing that really helped him come to the conclusion that he would like to go to a boarding school is the overnight visit to a boarding school called the Lawrenceville School last summer. And again, he was able to really immerse himself in the boarding school culture so that he can really be more secure in his decision without having to worry about, the cost of traveling to actually visit the school, because TEAK will supplement that.
Brandon was actually just here in the office interviewing for Deerfield. I actually got the chance to speak with him again, and he was a little nervous, but I think he was like, like I feel comfortable in what I have to share and my experiences. And afterwards, he came out with a smile on his face. So I think it's safe to conclude that it was a good time.
So, like we mentioned earlier, we have programs for everything associated with high school success and college success. So, like middle school, the high school program also pairs each student with a dean. So, this dean will schedule meetings with them, usually every 2 to 3 weeks, to check in with them, make sure that they're doing well mentally, socially, academically. They'll also visit each school of each fellow, regardless of location, no matter if your child goes to school across the country, they will still try to visit the school at least once a year. So this way, TEAK can develop these contacts within each school and get a better idea of how to support the students at their individual school. We also have something that we call Fellows Forums. So that's where the classes will congregate together during times when the majority of them are on school break. And this kind of serves as a way for fellows to discuss their school challenges and successes, and really to continue to bond as a class, even though they're not all in New York City. We also offer counseling for students to get exclusive internships in high school or college. And something really beneficial that we do, because we know a lot of high school or even college internships do not pay. So we will offer a stipend and pay the student for their work at that internship, because we really do feel like while experience is very important, they should also be paid for their work at the internship. Another really awesome program we offer is we connect students with study abroad opportunities with their schools or a third party program. So a lot of our college students will take a semester abroad, but we also help our high school students to find these opportunities too, which is really unique. We currently have an 11th grader that we helped get into a study abroad program in Japan. And he's enjoying it so much. He keeps sending us photos with his host family and all the activities that he's doing. And again, this is something that he might not necessarily have had the opportunity to do without TEAK. And then, of course, we offer intensive college guidance and test prep. Our college guidance team has students here every single day after school, or are always on Zoom calls with the students, just kind of walking them through their applications and helping them out with their financial aid applications. We actually just got our first acceptance from a senior yesterday. He got into Harvey Mudd, which only has an 18% acceptance rate. So we were all cheering for him at the office, and we we're super proud of him. We also have a professional coaching team that will help our college students to develop their professional goals and take the necessary steps to get to a point that they are able to get a good job doing what they want to do after they graduate. We also pay for our students to go on some college visits around the country. So we'll try to show them a variety of schools so that they can really get a good sense of what they're interested in. I believe Naya said that her year they visited Cornell and Union College, which are both very different colleges. And again, those are all expenses paid and it come at no cost to the family. And then finally, we have something we call the TEAK Family Collaborative. And so that's where TEAK families will come together, usually monthly, and connect with each other. So tonight we actually have an event for them that's a stress relief seminar. And then a couple weeks ago, they hosted a TEAKsgiving event for all the TEAK families where they brought food, potluck style, and they had a chance to speak with other parents in the program at our office.
Erin, really quickly, I think the student who got accepted into Harvey Mudd didn't just get into the undergrad, I think was also accepted into their graduate program. I think for like 50% of their graduate tuition is covered as well. So set for like the next 6 to 7 years, which is really incredible.
We're super excited for him.
So, I would like to introduce Mr. Gunendra Dev. Gunendra Dev is the parent of Preeti, who is in class 17. She went to the Spence School for High School, which is a private school in New York City, and is currently a junior at Columbia University. So Mr. Dev has a lot of experience working with TEAK over the years, and we are so excited to have this opportunity for you to share with us what it's like being a TEAK parent, some of the things that you really learned about this process along the way.
Hi everyone, my name is Deb. I am going to speak about my experience as a parent of a TEAK fellows. I cannot finish saying all of the good things about the TEAK, but I will try to give you some of my highlights. TEAK is an emerging program that really changes students and their family lives. In the admission process for TEAK, there were many parts, such as the written application test and the interviews. Even though the process felt long, we saw how similar it was to the actual application process for independent school. TEAK is an exceptional program that gives a lot of opportunities to students, but it also helps teaches family members about how to help students navigate through them. From the actual written application to filling out to the financial aid detail. TEAK is always there to help us, as TEAK fellows are giving through all the necessary steps in the process, like test preparation and submitting all parts of the application. We are also learning about them. As an immigrant family, thinking that my child will go to a private school in America was unbelievable until TEAK came into our lives. TEAK showed us that hard work and effort can help students access limitless opportunities in intermediate school, regardless of their family's financial status. TEAK also is such a supportive community. Their care for their fellows do not end when they go to their high school. Even in high school, my daughter would come home and say that her TEAK advisor visited her in her school to understand how things are going. To put it simply, TEAK never made us feel alone. Even in the college application process, TEAK showed us all the steps, prepared my daughter for her interview, helped her with submitting all the parts of the application, including financial aid. Now that she is in the college, our TEAK advisor is constantly checking in with her and asking about her well-being. We are truly grateful to TEAK for being there for us. TEAK has challenged and encouraged our daughter to learn new things. TEAK has truly changed our lives by unlocking access to opportunities that we could not have imagined to get before. I am proud that my daughter attended Columbia University because of TEAK. I also want to mention that even during the pandemic, TEAK has greatly supported my daughter while she was attending her first year of college from home. The pandemic and its challenge were unprecedented, but TEAK has been a guiding light here for us all. Thank you, TEAK, for being there for my daughter's education.
Thank you so much, Deb. We really, really appreciate it.
And if
Thank you.
anybody would like to ask him questions, like I said, he'll be staying until the end with us. And you definitely will have an opportunity to ask him more questions. But Erin, I'll let you continue.
So as you can see here, our students go on to attend some of the best colleges in the nation. So we'll help our students to really explore all of their options, and we'll help them get into any school that they are interested in. And more importantly, we will help them get the financial aid so that they can actually attend the school of their choice. So a really cool statistic that I heard someone saying is that TEAK actually has a 30% average for our students getting into Ivy League schools, which is an insane statistic given that the Ivy League acceptance rate is usually 5%. So our college guidance program is really top notch. So TEAK's impact and statistics really do speak for themselves. So we'll guide our fellows to discover their passions and goals. We'll pair them with trained individuals that will help them to improve in any area that they want to grow in. And I think that's what really makes TEAK students so successful, is that they're really given these tools to become the best versions of themselves and get into schools that can also help them to blossom. So TEAK's average SAT score in 2021 was 1390. The national average was 1050 to 1100. So as you can see, TEAK students are way beyond that. And that is because we really do try to individually focus on each student to make sure they're working on certain areas and offer them test prep so that we can make sure that they improve their scores. 71% are the first in their family to attend college. 91% of college tuition costs were covered for the class of 2021 through financial awards. So like I said, we have college counselors and financial aid advisors that work with both the schools and the families to really optimize their financial aid rewards and scholarships, while also making sure that every student is really looking at the right school for them. And then 100%, so all of our TEAK students have matriculated to top selective colleges. So we're really proud of that statistic as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Naya, and I am TEAK class 15. So to clarify the class numbering system, the first class from TEAK, from its inception, was called class 1. The second class was called class 2, and I think you can kind of figure out the rest. So if you are admitted into TEAK for this cycle, you will be in TEAK's class 26. So I just graduated from college. So back about 10 years ago, when I was a sixth grader, I was looking at TEAK, kind of in a similar vein of Chloe, where my classes were not challenging me enough at my school, and so I needed that extra push. And one of the things at Summer Institute that really got to me was the fact that the classes were challenging. They were not that easy A that I was used to getting, and it was forcing me to think a little bit more than I anticipated. But it really did prepare me for the work. I decided with my family that we wanted to look at boarding schools and to apply to boarding schools. My dad was the more supportive parent in that decision. But one of the things that I definitely found out firsthand when I went there was that the classes at the private schools are very much more discussion based. It's not so test centered heavy. It's more about projects and discussion and collaboration. And I feel like the classes at Summer Institute also reflected that. So it wasn't such a big surprise. Just because the classes at my middle school were definitely more centered around state tests, getting ready for the state tests. And I, think that I had a really unique experience at a boarding school, being away from home, but like being immersed in an environment where everybody is learning. Um, I then decided to go from my boarding school to apply to college, a college in Los Angeles called Occidental. It is a small liberal arts college, quite literally in Los Angeles City. And I decided to study music. I studied music production specifically, so that's more of the engineering side of things. And I got to produce an instrumental album as part of my senior thesis. And I ended up graduating magna cum laude from Oxy this past May. Um, and there's a lot of things that we can say about TEAK, about the test prep, the classes, the overall support. But I think the biggest thing for me is that I made some of the most meaningful and lifelong friends at TEAK. And it's something that you don't realize is like so important until you're older, when you're trying to navigate the world and you're learning about how to be an adult. But I'm so glad that I can say something about each of my TEAK classmates if you were to ask me on the spot. And I still talk with some of my TEAK friends. We're still texting. I hang out with them at least like once a month. And I'm very fortunate to have that. And I think a lot of TEAK students feel the same way, that you're just in this community that really cares about you. They've seen you from when you were a child, growing, coming into yourself and your being. And I hope that that reassures parents as well, that, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that TEAK really does provide that village support in such a unique way. So our commitment to access and affordability, everything that you have heard about the offerings of TEAK is free. Free, no strings attached. We are not, going to be hunting down people right after graduation to be asking for payment. It's none of that. We are free. And we help to cover all the costs associated with programming for equity purposes. So we will make sure that when students are accepted, they are given a Chromebook to be able to do their homework. We will help provide them with a Metro card if their school does not provide them with a Metro card already. And we will give them academic supplies so that they're able to turn in their assignments on time. And as Erin mentioned, TEAK is not paying for the tuition of the private schools or the colleges. We are helping to leverage the offers that these high schools and colleges give you, so that way you're getting the best financial aid possible. I know that that has worked for me, that has worked for so many students. And we are, again, very good at what we do, which is why our students are able to go into these schools very comfortably. Another thing is our response to COVID-19, because that is still being thrown out about in the world. So during the pandemic, we were remote. We did have remote programming for our students. So we did not take really a pause in our programming for that year and a half. But we are now in person, and we keep in accordance with state and CDC guidelines to ensure the health and safety of our students. And of course, God forbid, but in the event that we have to go back, we will provide our students with computers again, blue light glasses, headphones, and Wi-Fi hotspots to families who are maybe not able to have a steady Wi-Fi connection. We also know that mental health has been an increasing point of discussion during the pandemic as well. While adults definitely struggled during the pandemic, we know our children struggled a lot as well. So we have collaborated with a programs such as Teen Talk and Talkspace to provide those counseling services to our students. And currently we are adding a counseling director to our staff. So this will be a full-time staff member who is internal, who will be helping to take care of the needs of our students. And we are hoping to have this position filled just in time for the admittance of class 26. Another thing to note is that all eligible students must be fully vaccinated against COVID by April of 2023. So we want to make sure that all of our students are vaccinated in time for Summer Institute. And this is something that has been laid out among this executive director and the middle school academy staff. Our eligibility requirements. So currently, we ask that all of our students are a New York City resident who is attending sixth grade at a school in New York City. So again, you must be a current sixth grader to apply to TEAK. This is our only point of entry. We are asking for students to have 90% and above in all of their classes with a strong attendance record, coming from a family with financial need, which we will go over shortly. And the student must be a US citizen or legal permanent resident. We are not looking at the status of any of the other family members, but we are asking that the student does have to be either, again, a citizen or a legal permanent resident.
So now let's talk about the financial eligibility, or what we refer to as the income requirements for TEAK. So this slide has a lot of information on it. What I usually share with everyone is the easiest way to review it to understand it. If after I explain it, you still have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask at the end of the presentation, or of course, we will make sure that we share our contact info with you as well. So here is the easiest way to go over this slide. If you are looking at column 1 that says household size, let's just, for this example, say that we have a household size of 4 people. And then if you look at the maximum income requirement, it says $133,400. So what that means is that if you are in a household with 4 people, that your maximum income requirement should be less than $133,400. So again, you will look at column 1 for the household size, and then you would look at the maximum income requirement. And if your household income is below the number that is listed next to your household size, then your child would qualify financially for TEAK. So again, if anybody has any very specific questions about this, as we do know that everyone has different circumstances in terms of the finances within their household as well as their household size, you can definitely contact us. Again, at the end of the presentation, there will be a slide with our contact info, which will allow you to make an appointment with any of us, or you would be able to send us an email to ask your question. So now that you've seen this presentation, and in addition to that, you've heard from Mr. Dev in regards to his experience being the parent of a TEAK fellow, we know that you are excited about moving forward in the process. So now, what are your next steps? So your next steps are that you would complete the feedback form, which will be on the last slide of today's presentation. Then in addition to that, we would ask that you submit the 5th grade and the first quarter 6th grade report card for your child so that we can determine academic eligibility. Additionally, we ask that you create an account with Ravenna or submit an inquiry on our website, which we know that you have already done since you are here with us this evening. And then in addition to that, and most importantly, please make sure that you complete the online application via ravenna-hub.com.
So what does our application process consist of? So we have 2 different rounds during our application process. During the first round, which is currently available, we ask for the completion of questions through the application that is located on Ravenna. So this includes parent statements and a series of student short essays. We also asked for 2 mandatory teacher recommendations. So one must be from a math teacher and one must be from an ELA teacher. So how that works is once you are in the process of applying, you will be able to delegate the forms to your prospective teachers. You'll just enter their email into the form and it will go directly to them. And once they submit on their end, it'll come directly to TEAK. We do, however, suggest that you do speak to them prior to delegating the form to them so that they know to look out for it and what to expect. There is also the option to submit a supplemental recommendation, and that can be completed by another teacher of your choice, a mentor, a coach, religious leader, someone that you feel really knows your potential. And again, that supplemental recommendation is optional, but the ELA and math recommendations are required. We also ask, again, like we said, for the 5th grade report card and the first quarter 6th grade report card when it becomes available. We know that you probably have already emailed it to us, but there will also be a way to upload it on the application that we ask that you do as well. There's also an optional step to upload the 5th grade state exam scores. This is not required. It will not be held against you if you choose not to upload it. We look at every application holistically. And finally, we do ask for self-reported financial information during this round. Proof will be requested should you move on to the finalist round or the second round. But we do ask that you do refer to your 2021 tax return and W-2s to make sure that you're putting accurate information into the system so that we can determine your financial eligibility. And that round 1 application is due on January 25th at 5:00 p.m. Finalists that move on to the second round or the finalist round will be required to take the SSAT admissions exam. So that's actually the exam that a lot of independent high schools use for admissions. There is no minimum score that we are looking for on this exam. We don't need students to prepare for the exam. We're going to look at the student's entire application for admittance. We also ask that the students do participate in an interview with their parent or guardian. We ask that the parent and guardian are present during this interview because we really want them to get a good understanding of the program. We want to connect with them because they are such a big part of TEAK as a whole. And then finally, like I said, we're going to ask you to upload your official financial documents like your federal tax return, your W-2s, any other financial documents. And again, only finalists will be asked to complete those things that are located in the round 2 column. And that'll start in February of 2023. So there's no need to worry about that just yet. We would now like to open the floor up to any questions that you guys might have. We do ask that you stay through the questions portion so that you're able to complete the feedback form at the end. So feel free to put your questions in the chat box at the bottom of your screen and we can answer them for the group. If there's anything that you would like to ask us privately, feel free to send us an email. give us a call or sign up for our office hours, which that link is right there. And we will be able to answer that for you. If any questions come up later on, we do have a FAQ, which is a frequently asked questions page on our website that you can access at any time. So does anyone have any questions?
The floor is now open if anybody would like to ask any questions, and that includes asking our guest, Mr. Dev, questions as well, because we know obviously that there are some parents here. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself so that then we can hear you ask your question. So this either means that we did the presentation very well or everyone is shy.
Oh, we just got one. Is the financial eligibility reevaluated every year? So no, we only look at the financials when they enter TEAK. And once you're in TEAK, once you're accepted, you're there for 10 years. So where you won't kick you out, say your income rises or anything like that. We only ask for that when they are going through the admissions process. Any other questions? Can be anything. Okay, if anything comes up later on, please feel free to contact us or sign up for our office hours.
And just so you know, our office hours are they are virtual as well as being via telephone. So parents especially, if it's easier for you to just schedule a time and ask us to call you, we can do that, or we also can do a Zoom. I do see that there are two other questions. The first one was, how do I get the application to apply? So everyone who attends this evening, as long as you attended the full hour of the info session, then you'll be able to get the link so that then you can do the application. So if you did not join from the very beginning, you are going to be required to do a full 1 hour information session, as the session did start at 6 p.m. So for everyone else who is here, at the very end, you'll get that feedback form, and then you'll be able to move forward with doing the application. So the other question was, what is the acceptance rate to get into the program? So we don't necessarily list it as an acceptance rate. What we will tell you is that we do have 45 to 50 students that we admit into TEAK for every admission cycle. On average, TEAK usually ends up getting about 150 to 200 applications every year. Right now, we are at the height of our recruiting season, and we will be taking those first round applications up until January 25th. So our goal by the time that we get to the time of Summer Institute is to have 45 to 50 students out of all of the applications that we received actually enrolled and starting at TEAK. The other question I see here is, how does TEAK mentally prepare and emotionally for transitioning to a different environment? So again, that is where not only the parents, but also the mental health services that we provide come in. As Naya shared when she was doing one of her slides, is that we are currently in the process of hiring a director of counseling. And the reason why we're doing that is because that we know that with some students, not only do they need to have it that they have family and friends who support them emotionally, but in addition to that, they may need to use a virtual type of mental health counseling. But we also know that as we're all trying to come back into an environment together, that is super important that a student also knows, not only can I speak to my assigned MSA dean, which stands for middle school academy dean, but we also want to have an in-house person so that if any of our students feel that they need to come and speak to someone, that they can do it in our office. So we currently are hiring for that position. And if your child is enrolled into TEAK, they would be able to utilize that counselor. It will be on a scheduled basis. basis, but that counselor will be a full-time staff member who will be available to speak to students in person and virtually if necessary, but definitely in person because they will be part of our in-house TEAK staff. So hopefully that answered your question. Was there anybody else that had any other questions, or was there anything, Naya or Erin, that you thought you would like to add?
Yeah. I something to add about that, just specifically thinking about this transition from middle school into high school, especially because the private schools can just be, completely different from the middle schools. Um, our staff make sure to, set the realistic expectations as to what these schools are like. We make sure that not just the student, but the family really understands what it's like to be at these types of schools, the different challenges. We make sure that that is an ongoing discussion in middle school. The deans are also making sure in high school to check in on the students. I believe like, when you're first admitted into high school, they check in at least like maybe every 3 weeks to once a month through telephone. And they're not just asking about, how are your grades? They are asking, how are you doing? Are you getting yourself involved in activities at the school? Do you like your teachers? And when the deans visit those schools, they are also making sure that the school is a great environment for our students. They're able to meet the teachers and to really speak personally. So that way, younger TEAK students who are applying for high school can be well versed about the school and, have a more realistic expectation of what it's like there. So we always make sure that that is a discussion. Even the fellows forums is such a great way for people to share their high school experiences and their college experiences. So we really do put that like front and center in a lot of our programming, because our programming isn't just about academic success. We want to make sure that our students are well supported to be, good people who are supported.
Thank you, Naya. And Erin, there was a question that was put into the chat. If you can respond so that everyone can hear the response, I just want to make sure that everyone hears it.
Sure. So we got asked if your current income is higher than shown before, can the child still be accepted to the program? So although we do look at the entire application holistically, we do have very strict financial requirements, and unfortunately, we can't go over that. However, there are so many amazing enrichment programs in New York City. So we actually have compiled an entire document with different programs that might have different financial standards. So if you send us an email after this session, we can forward that to you, and hopefully you can find a really good program for your child.
And in addition to that, not only is it for students who might not be, whose parents may not be within a certain income, but also it's a document for different points of entry. So as we've shared with you several times, you can only come into TEAK as a sixth grader. It's only that 1 year that you can come in. But the PDF that Erin was speaking about has over 30 different educational programs that are offered within the 5 boroughs of New York City, and they have various different points of entry. So they go from K through 12. So if for some reason your child cannot do TEAK because of the income requirement, the document that we're happy to share with you will have different options that may work for your child in terms of not only economics, but also the grade that they're in, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely send any of us an email. If you'd like to send it directly to Erin, since she answered your question, that is absolutely fine. Or you can send it to any of the 3 of us, and we will make sure that you get that document. So not only for the person that asked the question, but if there's anyone else that after hearing tonight's presentation, you know that your child may not qualify academically as well as financially, send any of us an email and we're happy to share that document with you. So I do like to always make sure that I am super mindful of everyone's time. And I know that you all committed to 7 p.m. So the time is now 7:09. I just wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to get the feedback form before we end today's information session. Please make sure that if you haven't already done so, that you scan this barcode, or you can go directly to that website so that you can complete the feedback form. And once you do so, that will be our way of verifying that you attended today. Again, if you missed 30 or more minutes of today's presentation, we would ask that you attend a different presentation. I'm actually doing this same presentation tomorrow, which is Thursday, December the 15th, from 6 to 7 p.m. So if you'd like to sign up for that one or any of the other ones that we have coming up in the coming weeks, that would be great. But for anyone else who has been here for the full hour, feel free to fill out the form. We'll keep it up there for about another 30 seconds to make sure that everyone can scan it or go to that website or take a picture of the page. And if you can please make sure that you do that within 24 to 48 hours, we would greatly appreciate it.
And once you finish that form, you are free to log off. And thank you so much for taking the time to attend this session tonight. And we hope that you learned a little bit more about our program and our process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erin. And thank you again so much to our guest, Mr. Dev. We appreciate you for coming in and sharing your experience. We had the pleasure of having Reedy with us in 2 weeks ago. And we're so happy that you were able to come and share your parent experience. So thank you again, because we know that you could have been doing anything else, but you decided to showcase how much you love TEAK and how much it has been a benefit to Reedy and your family. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome. So have a great evening, everyone. Naya, if you can just show one last time the page with all of our info, just so that if anybody wants to take one last picture. And again, today's presentation has concluded. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and have a wonderful evening and a great holiday season.